please face me and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please have a seat and will stand. And for the record, say and spell your first and last name, please.
Salvatore Mauceri, S-A-L-V-A-T-O-R-E, Mauceri, M-A-U-C-E-R-I.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, can you please tell us how it is that you're employed?
I am currently employed by a company called Essilor Luxottica.
What kind of company is that?
Eyewear company.
Okay. And did you fly in from the East Coast to testify in this case?
I did.
Prior to your position at Essilor, were you a CEO?
Yes, I was the managing director or the general manager of Wella.
Okay. What kind of company is Wella?
It is a beauty hair care company focused on the professional industry, being salons and stylists primarily.
Approximately how many years were you still employed with Wella?
About 13 years, Procter & Gamble, Wella, and then eventually Coty.
Okay, so initially it was Wella, and then P&G purchased it and sold it to Coty?
Correct.
All right. And were you involved in the integration process?
Yes.
All right. Wella, is that a company that is involved in also in hair color?
Yes, primarily.
Okay. But maybe the largest hair color company in the world?
It would be at least, if not the largest, number 2.
So we're talking about like maybe a global company that's
It's a global company.
multi-billion-dollar
Yes,
company?
yeah, exactly.
All right. And did you know somebody by the name of Fabio Sementilli?
Yes.
And how is it that you knew Fabio?
He worked in our North America organization as the head of education for North America.
And when did you first meet him?
Spring 2014, when I was transitioning from Europe.
Showing you Exhibit 73. The glare.
Yep.
There we go. Do you recognize who you see here in this photo?
I do. Left to right would be Luigi, Bella, Fabio, Jessica.
Okay. And did you know Fabio prior to the time he came to Wella?
No, I heard of him, but I did not know him.
Okay. Did you know that he was an educator or an independent contractor for Wella prior to coming over?
I knew he was in Canada. I think he was associated with a salon. He was always an educator, very well known. That's what I knew.
When you say very well known, you're talking about in the
industry,
professional industry.
Yep.
Okay. And was he utilized in a particular manner in terms of the industry and his influence?
Yeah, I mean, he was really the face of the company, the external face of the company when it came to stylists and salon owners. People respected him because they knew him for many, many years. He was super talented. He was incredibly well-spoken, and he had great stage presence. So people, the entire industry really knew him very well.
On a global level?
I would say more on a North America level than on a global
Okay.
level. Yeah.
And when he was initially brought in, was he working for you?
No, he came from the Canadian organization. He was already in the LA headquarters, operating as the North America head of education when I transitioned.
Okay. When you transitioned, you took over for Ruben Carranza, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So when Ruben left, you took Ruben's role?
Yes.
Okay. And Fabio worked for you?
Yes.
Okay.
He worked for me on the business, and he worked for the global head of education. So there's a functional head and there's a business head. I was the business head.
Got it. Generally, if you're talking about on the artist side of the industry, where Fabio came from, those people don't generally tend to be executives, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So was this an unusual circumstance to bring somebody like him in to work on an executive team? So did you have a leadership team?
Yes.
And who was in charge of the leadership team?
I was responsible for the leadership team. They
And
all
who-
reported into me.
Fabio reported to you.
He was one of the members of the lead team, yes.
Okay. And that particular lead team, did you often travel together?
We traveled often, not as a group together. It would depend on the scope of the travel. But I traveled a lot with Fabio. We traveled a lot as a larger team for events, sales meetings, big shows, etc.
When you talk about big shows, you're talking about like the kind of shows you would have maybe at a large conference center, like maybe in Las Vegas?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And once Fabio came to the United States, was he in an office where you also were? In other words, where you would see him on a regular basis?
He was on the opposite side of the building, so there was kind of a great divide, but in his area was basically all the educators. I think the studio was there. But my office, which was, the building was I guess constructed years ago, was a real traditional executive wing. And so it had a coffee area, et cetera. So my lead team would tend to congregate there early in the morning or end of the day, and he would always stop by.
Okay. So would you speak to him, if not daily, at least several times a week?
Several times a week,
Okay. Sometimes several times a day?
sometimes several times a day, yeah.
Okay. And did you said the two of you would travel together often?
Yes.
Okay. Was he somebody who was integral to transitioning for you into this position? Did you and your wife spend any time with Fabio and his family?
In the first year to 2 years, when we transitioned over in 2014, I think we spent Thanksgiving together, and I believe just before Christmas we went over. And then, of course, we spent time with them, or at least the spouses did, on several occasions when we had events.
And when you spent time with Fabio, did you ever spend time at his home when you were talking about the holidays?
It was at his home.
Okay, and was that the house?
The Thanksgiving, the Queen Victoria, yeah.
Okay.
Thanksgiving and the pre-Christmas was at their house.
Okay. And you were transitioning from where?
From Switzerland,
Okay. Geneva, where the
Geneva, Switzerland.
headquarters is.
Global headquarters, yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the way that Wella operated, if Fabio's team was particularly successful, were there certain types of bonuses in terms of trips that were rewarded?
There were trips that we called trendsetters, and those trendsetters were usually, let's say, once a year. We would, as a leadership team, identify major contributors to the success of the business. Usually could be 50 to 75 people throughout the organization. Their spouses were included in a 3-day trip. A good number of my lead team would join with their spouses. and it was really more of a recognition event for some of the high performers that were picked by the lead team.
And did you travel with your spouse along with Fabio and his wife to some of these trendsetter vacation trips?
I think two that I could recall immediately.
Okay. Do you remember
One
what
was
the first one was?
2015, I guess, was October, St. Thomas.
Okay.
And then 2016, I want to say it was either September or October. I believe that was Oahu.
Hawaii.
Hawaii, correct.
All right. And so you knew well, based on the amount of time you spent at the Queen Victoria home or these trips or the holidays, Fabio's family.
Yes.
And did you get to know his wife?
I saw her on those occasions, yes.
Do you see her here in court today?
I do.
Can you identify her, point her out in some manner?
The cream blazer.
Thank you, Rona. Did you and Fabio, besides working together and traveling together for business, did you form a friendship?
Yes.
And would you say that the two of you became very good friends?
We did. I would say we became very good friends specifically in a working environment. We didn't spend a lot of time outside of work, but we traveled a lot.
And most of those travels, as you mentioned, would be for work?
Most of the travels, all of the travels would be for work.
Other than maybe if you were going on a trendsetter's trip.
Which was still work,
but
yes. Well, maybe
for
not
fun.
work, but it was work, sponsored, yes.
And where did the two of you travel together?
We would travel to every year, starting in mostly February, March. We would travel to all of the Trend Visions, which are basically globally deployed creations that would then be reapplied in the salons.
So let me just ask you, Trend Visions, for those of us that are not in the industry, is that some kind of a show?
It's a show. It's a large show where several thousand stylists, salon owners would come into a particular city, and there would be a huge production.
Okay. And who would be in charge of those type of productions?
From a financial perspective,
Yeah.
In charge of production and putting it together would be the education group, Fabio and his team.
Okay. And where is it that you and Fabio would travel?
Well, we would go to those shows, for sure. We would go to large customer meetings. We would go to trade events. The trade would have similar shows. We would, from time to time, go to Europe. He might join me once or twice to headquarters. That's basically it.
Okay. So the travels included North America plus Europe.
North America plus less so for Fabio Europe, but yes.
Also Canada, Toronto,
Canada. Yep.
In terms of Fabio, did he seem to you and your friendship with him, spending time with him, to be a very dedicated family man?
Yes, very much so. He loved his girls, loved his wife. Yeah.
Didn't know of anybody who would be an enemy?
Zero. He was literally, it wasn't an exaggeration if you knew him, but he was loved by everybody. Everybody knew Fabio.
How many times would you say over the course of your relationship with Fabio that you met the defendant?
5 to 10 times, like really met at a activity, either at their place or at an event where we spent time together.
Okay. And some of these larger events, like the Trend Vision you mentioned, were those trips where sometimes your spouses would accompany you?
The trend setters, yes. Trend vision, sometimes.
Okay. Was there a Trend Vision show that occurred in Las Vegas in July of 2016?
Yes,
Did you attend that event?
yes.
Who was in charge of it?
Normally, it would be Fabio and his entire team, so that would be the case.
And in terms of his entire team, can you give us some of the individuals that would be involved in that?
From a show production, I think Melanie Garibay, Carol Protat, more on a lot of the Sebastian hair products, Mika Quinn, Paula Rufo, Mark Pontrelli, and then there were a few others as well.
Okay.
Probably missing some.
So those would be the main people who would be involved in his leadership team.
They would, I think they were all part of his leadership team. Yeah.
Do you recall if that Trend Vision show that occurred in Las Vegas in 2016, if the defendant attended?
No, I don't remember. I don't recall.
I have a photograph, Your Honor, that's titled Sal Mauceri at Trend Vision in Las Vegas, July 25th, 2016. May it be marked as People's 86?
Yes.
Showing you People's 86. Do you recognize who you see here?
That's me. That's me.
Was that at the Trend Vision, one of the Trend Vision shows during the week of July 25th?
That was a side event at the show, yes.
I have another set of 2 photographs from the same week, Your Honor, if it could be marked as People's 86. It's titled Defendant Sementilli at Trend Vision in Las Vegas, July 25th, 2016.
87.
Sorry, thank you. Showing you People's 87. Again, there's a glare. Let's see if I can...
Yep.
Do you recognize what you see here?
I do.
And what do you see? Let's start with the photograph on the left.
I see Monica on the right, or the defendant on the right, and I don't, no, I'm sorry. The left picture, the person on the right, Monica, I can't make out the person in the middle. The one on the left is I believe, a Quebec distributor.
Okay, and on the right, do you also see a photograph of the
Yes.
defendant?
Yes.
Okay, and does this appear from looking at the background to be also one of the Trend Vision shows in Vegas that year?
It looks like a Trend Vision show. I'm not sure if it's Vegas, but yes.
Okay. I have another set of 2 photographs, Your Honor. Same title, but to be marked as People's 88, please.
All right.
Thank you. Showing you People's 88. Do you recognize what you see here?
I recognize Monica on the left picture. I don't know the lady to the far left. On the right, Monica and one of our sales managers or sales VPs, Patricia.
Does this appear to be, from looking at the background, again, from the Trend Vision shows in Las Vegas in 2016?
The left looks like it could be. The right looks like it might have been an after-party restaurant. But I don't know. I don't recall.
Let me ask you, if Fabio and his team were involved in the production for these large shows where you said, I think you said several thousand stylists and salon owners would come, would he have been busy during the day doing various things in order to get ready for these shows?
Sustained?
What would you and Fabio have been doing during the day?
You mean together?
Yes.
Overruled.
They were super busy shows because we would typically have a customer event the day before, we would have the show the day of, and then we would have a sales meeting after the big show. There would be, like I said, 2,000 plus salon stylists coming in. We would have tens of thousands that would stream in, so the production was huge. The sales meeting involved a ton of pre-prep, and there was a lot of entertaining customers, our sales reps, and of course the shows were all day and evenings. So yeah, we were usually, so the trend vision was not necessarily something where we would be able to spend much time with our wives.
Okay. So in other words, if your wife was coming with you, she might see you in the evening for the show, but during the day, she would have to be on her own.
Yeah.
Same objection. This all calls for speculation.
Now, you mentioned the trips. I think you said that you went on one trend setter's trip to Oahu, Hawaii. That was in 2016.
Yes.
And did you note anything unusual with respect to Fabio and the defendant in Hawaii, Oahu, Hawaii, for that particular trip in November of 2016?
Objection, relevance,
So a rule?
and the foundation.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that was?
Fabio was, trend setters. The lead team was there to really cater to our top performers. And Fabio has a huge presence about him. And that one, we felt that...
just you.
I felt that he was not as engaged, and that he and Monica were spending more time kind of separated from the lead team and the rest of the organization.
Okay.
Not like they typically would.
So you found that to be unusual.
I noted it as an observation, and it was conversation amongst a couple of us in the leadership team and myself and my wife.
Did they appear to be spending time separately?
Yes.
Do you recall the last time that you spoke to Fabio?
Yes.
And do you remember what day that was?
Sunday, January 22nd, 2017.
And during that conversation, well, let me ask you first this. When Fabio wasn't traveling, did he usually come into the office?
Yes.
And did you have a conversation with him where you were not expecting him to come in the following day, that Monday the 23rd?
I had a conversation with him that he was having a procedure, and I did not expect him to come into the office.
And did he tell you that he was going to be working from home the next day?
Objection calls for hearsay.
Goes to explain subsequent conduct. Go ahead, sir.
I don't remember him telling me that he was going to work from home the whole day, other than me knowing that he was supposedly having a procedure on the 23rd morning.
Okay. The following day, Monday, January 23rd, at some point in time, did Fabio leave you a voice message?
He sent me a text message.
Did he
First
also,
thing in the morning.
I'm sorry?
He sent me a text message in the morning.
Did he also leave you a voice message at some point?
I received a voice message. I believe it actually populated the next day, and I believe the voice message was connected to a call that I received around 4:30 on the 23rd.
To be more specific, would that have been a voice message that was left at 4:27 p.m. on January 23rd?
I'm going to assume that's the same, yes.
At some point after January 23rd, did you send that voice message to a Detective Steve Castro at the LAPD?
Yes.
Where were you that day on that Monday, January 23rd?
In the office.
That office, at that point in time, that was in Woodland Hills, is that right?
DeSoto, Woodland Hills, yeah.
When you were at the office, did you generally have did you have a television in your office that you would have on?
Yes.
And at the end of the day on January 23rd, what happened?
People congregated around my office, people, normally my leadership team, a handful of them. I think late in the day, let's say around 4:30, was my CFO and head of HR. We were kind of hanging around my office. There might have been a couple other people coming in and out, but I remember the two of them for sure.
The CFO at that point in time was who?
Robert Lucian,
Okay, Bob Lucian. And
Bob
who
Lucian.
was the HR director?
Henry Meyer.
And what did your phone start to ring?
My phone, we were having a conversation and I saw an unknown call right around 4:30 or just prior. And I did not answer it because, again, it was unknown and we were in some kind of conversation. So, yes.
And at some point later, did you realize that it was coming in from a phone number that was Fabio's home phone?
No. I realized that when I heard his voice message, that for whatever reason populated hours later or the next day.
Okay. And in that particular voice message, that's where he just said he wanted to give you a shout out and touch base that it was somewhere between 4 and 4:30, and he's calling from the home phone.
Yes.
Okay. At some point after that, did you receive some other information?
Oral.
I received, and I don't remember whether they were Facebook messages, but I was receiving either Facebook calls or messages, I think it was calls, from one of Fabio's acquaintances on the East Coast that I really kind of just discounted as I was continuing to have conversations with whomever was in my office. And then I received a call probably, I don't know if it was 6:30, from, I guess it was Mike, I can't remember his last name, who introduced himself as, "Hey Sal, this is Mike. We met at Monica and Fabio's Thanksgiving, and I'm calling you to tell you Fabio is dead."
And what, if anything, did you do at that point?
Well, first and foremost, because I knew that, at least I thought, that he had a procedure in the morning, I thought it was a sick joke. And that's what I said to him. I said, and then he said, "No, this is not a joke. He has been killed. And Monica and the girls are either with me or across the street at a neighbor's house." And so I was in shock, and I said, "Okay, well, we're going to come there." Hung up, and then I ended up answering the call from the guy who called again from the East Coast, which was this gentleman called Donald Steris. And he was asking me the same thing. I don't think I actually told him what I heard, but
Okay.
he was saying, I think something happened to Fabio. And so I hung up and we left.
Would it be safe to say that although this this portion of the beauty industry is extremely large, that it's very well connected and word travels fast?
Super well connected.
Yeah. When this individual, Mike, called, did he also indicate that that Monica and the girls were with the police? Did he mention the word police?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I remember the location, that she was across the street.
Okay. And what did you do at that point?
I told, I think at the time was Bob Lucian. He had reached out to David Diaz, who was living, I think, across the street.
Who's Dave Diaz?
Dave Diaz was heading up some of our largest customers.
He was one of your VPs, correct?
He was one of my VPs.
For Canadian business?
He was originally in the Canadian business, but he had transitioned to Los Angeles, and
Okay.
so he was living in a kind of corporate apartment or rental.
Okay. So he had already left for the day?
He was flying somewhere and had arrived, did not come into the office. Bob
Okay.
called him, and then he raced over. So he was there within minutes. I walked outside and was looking for Henry Meyer, who had left his office.
You
was
mentioned he was your HR director.
head of HR, correct. He was getting in his car, so I waved for him to come back. We congregated together, and the four of us jumped in a car and raced over to the neighbor's house.
Okay. So you went to the Queen Victoria Street.
Yes.
And when you arrived at Queen Victoria, what, if anything, did you see?
The moment we arrived, we saw all the police vehicles, and the road was cordoned off.
All right. And were you able to get onto the street?
I was. We told them that I was, that I knew the family, that the person, that the victim was worked for me, and they allowed us to walk over to the neighbor's house, which is what we did.
That was across the street from the Sementilli
I
home?
think it was like Caddy Corner, but yeah, across
Okay.
the street.
And did you have contact with the defendant that night?
I believe that we were outside on a stoop. There's a few stairs going to the front door, and we were standing right there.
And did you have contact with the defendant there?
Yes.
And did you say anything to her at that point in time?
I mean, I hugged her. She was, she looked devastated. I told her that, we would do everything we could for her and the family. I really couldn't find any more words than that. And we left. We were not there very long at all.
While you were speaking to her, was her friend Deborah Obad there?
Honestly, other than a couple of pictures that I've seen in the press or whatever, I don't remember the lady other than the communication that I had with her.
Okay. So in other words, the defendant was standing with another woman on the stoop.
I think there were a handful of people on the stoop.
Okay.
I don't recall who exactly they were, but there were a handful of people on the stoop.
Okay. And what did you do at that point?
We raced on back to the office. This was going to be a huge, tragic issue for our broad organization. It was now late at night. It was going to be a very large communication, let's say, situation
In
for
terms of
the company.
PR?
To the trade, yeah, PR, I guess, more of it. And so we were trying to decipher what we were going to do, who we were going to call, how we enroll our European organization to also get some level of direction from them, or support more than anything else.
And later that night, did you receive a series of text messages?
I received at least one as an initial text message I believe it was like 11:30, and yes, that came from Deborah Obad.
Okay. And did she indicate to you something relative to Monica? defendant.
She's, I think, introduced herself. I'm Deborah Obad. I got your number from Monica. She needs to know information about the insurance company or the insurance, and I can't remember if it was in that initial text where she said, because of the Cody acquisition, she wants to know information about the insurance.
Because of the what, did you say? The
The,
what?
the Cody purchase of the P&G business.
Okay, the Cody purchase.
Yeah.
So this was during the subsequent to Cody purchasing Wella.
It was after Cody had purchased Wella.
Okay. I have a text message string that appears to have six pages, maybe marked as people's 89 through.
Can you just mark them all as 89? 1 through whatever?
Sure.
Thank you.
So Mark.
Thank you, Esther. Showing you Exhibit 89, where there's a left, in the bottom left corner, there's a red number 1. Was this the beginning of a text message string?
I mean, I see our numbers at the time. I don't see a text associated with it.
Well, let me ask you something. Did you have some conversation with Deborah Obad that night
Not that I-
relative to Fabio or Monica? Or
Not
was
that
it
I
all
recall.
via text message?
Text message.
Showing you 89, page 2. Do you recognize what you see here?
Yes?
Okay. And are these text messages that came from your phone?
To my phone, right?
Okay. And came to your phone from Deborah Obad?
I believe so, yes.
Well, is that what you recall?
Yes.
Okay. And is looking at the bubble in blue, is this from you back to Deborah Obad?
Yes.
Okay. And here you're saying we talked to her, meaning Monica?
Yes.
And when you say his entire lead team, are you referring to Fabio?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is not the initial text. This is subsequent text, and because here I'm saying I already talked to my lead team, his lead team, which I had not until the next day. So it's not the initial text that I
Okay.
received.
Nevertheless, looking at, did you continue to get text messages from Deborah Obad over the into the early morning hours of January 24th?
I received a series of text messages from her. Yes, one starting at around 11:30 and then continued, I'm assuming, into the early morning hours.
And looking at the right side of 89, number 2 at the top, does this appear to be consistent with what you were just telling us
Yes.
about Deborah Obad inquiring from Monica about life insurance?
Yes.
Okay. And the change with Cody.
Yes.
Cody would be spelled with a T,
T.
correct?
With a T.
And what did you respond?
I was directing her to Henry, which I did several times, simply because I'm not in a position to discuss personal insurance information. HR is best positioned for that.
And Henry, as you said, was
Head of
Meyer
HR.
was the head of HR. Okay. And so you, when this came through during the early morning hours of January 24th regarding Monica inquiring about life insurance, you directed Deborah to have Monica contact Henry.
I directed either Deborah or Monica to reach out to Henry who can then help them out. But I was not the person that can help them.
You were the CEO.
Yes.
Showing you Exhibit 89, page 3. There's a 3 in the bottom right corner. Again, is this part of the text string between you and Deborah Obad regarding Monica?
Yes.
Okay. And you, in this part, said something about Fabio's sister.
Yes.
What is it that you were relating here?
I recall me sending an initial text saying Monica is probably not in a mental state, and so you should direct your questions to Henry, and or later I said it would be best once her family comes in that the family be included so that she can then understand the details of her insurance policy or the insurance policy.
Besides knowing Fabio's wife and children, did you also know his sister?
I knew Morella, yes.
Okay. And how did you know Morella?
She was also a stylist, and she was utilized in the U.S. as well. She was also had stage presence because of her experience.
Okay. So when you say she was utilized, she was also, as Fabio started out, an independent contractor for Wella as a platform artist.
Yes.
And an educator.
Yes.
Okay. Looking over at the right side of the page, now we're at about 10:30 in the morning on January 24th. You receive a text from Deborah Obad to call her. And what was your response here?
I really didn't want to talk to the lady, so I kept pushing her over to Henry.
Showing you People's 89, page 4. Was this a response that you gave back to Deborah Obad?
Yes.
And when you said we have a series of meetings, are you dictating?
Series of, no, I probably just misspelled it.
Okay. So you were basically in the process of having, as you explained to us already, a series of meetings with your organization.
Yes.
And you again directed her back to your HR director, Henry Meyer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in the end of this text string, you also said that you were having a difficult time dealing with this loss.
Yes.
That was because of your relationship with Fabio.
Yes.
Now, when you received this series of text messages from Deborah Obad saying that Monica was inquiring about the life insurance, what were your thoughts on that? What did you do in response?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
When I received the text message the evening of, I thought it was bizarre because I didn't know this person. She was suggesting she was calling or messaging for Monica. I felt Monica was not in a position to really be asking for this at this point, so I found it bizarre, and I showed it to, I believe it was Henry Meyer and Dave Diaz, Bob Lucian, the guys that were with me, the three that were with me.
Okay. And that was because when you said it was bizarre, that was because you felt it wasn't the main concern at that moment.
I did not think it was the main concern at that moment, and that I felt this is traditionally the type of thing a company will take care of and should not be the point of interest the night of.
At that point. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. the next day, which would have been January 24th, a Tuesday, did you go back to the Sementilli home?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go with others or alone that day?
There were several others. I think Dave Diaz was there. There were a few members of my lead team, a couple of people I think from Fabio's team. Monica was on the couch, I think, with a couple of people. Yes, there were a few people. We brought I think we brought food, or somebody made food. I can't remember.
Did you bring Henry Meyer with you?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And again, was Deborah Obad there?
Yes.
And did she once again ask you about the life insurance for Monica?
Yes, she came up to me as I was, I think, getting some food, and again was asking, Monica really needs to know, and can you do something about this and find out? And I think I was a little bit more forceful with her,
Okay.
much more direct in that I would not be talking to a non-family member or Monica, and specifically I would not be the person delivering the information, but Henry Meyer would. So I think she got the point at that moment that I had nothing to do with communicating details.
Okay. Now, subsequent to that day, did you direct Fabio's lead team and other individuals at Wella to basically rally behind
Yes.
the defendant? What is it that you directed?
Well, it was a general directive that we would do everything we possibly could to help Monica and the family. And of course, I started learning of the details, which I was fully directly supportive of, and so was the company at the global level.
Okay. So you were sort of at that point in a position where you were approving of things and also at the global level getting approval.
I approve things because I own the profit and loss of the business, but I expected, since this was an exceptional situation, that we would potentially do exceptional things. And
Okay.
so I wanted to make sure that our global office was also aware.
Okay. That meant Geneva.
Yes.
At that point in time, that would have been Sally Schoen.
No. It would have been
Michelle
the CEO
Mason?
of the company. Michelle Mason, of course, was aware, but again, they were functional leaders.
Okay.
The person that was really supporting my direction, which was the financial piece of helping out, would have been the CEO of the company.
Okay. And did you personally attend a viewing on January 29th at a funeral home in the Woodland Hills area?
Yes.
And subsequent to that, a wake or some type of a gathering?
Yes.
In the backyard of the Sementilli home?
Yes.
Also on the 29th?
Yes.
And was that an event that the company paid for?
We paid for that event and several other things.
Okay. In terms of paying for the event, we're talking about catering,
Catering, food,
tables.
I believe we paid for repatriating the body. I mean, we paid for basically everything.
Repatriating the body, meaning sending
To-
Fabio's body back to his home country.
Correct.
Paid for airline for family to come in from Canada.
I can't tell you specifically what we paid for. I was not necessarily involved in all the details,
Okay.
but I'm very well aware of what my organization's doing. And so, yes, drivers, some travel, food, perhaps lodging, funerals, food. Like I said, yes,
Okay. Some of that occurred in the United States. Some of that occurred back in Canada.
sure, yes.
Okay. And subsequent to Fabio's murder, were you involved in various events or tributes?
Yes. There is
would that be not only in the United States, but also in Canada?
Yes.
And were these events that, had Fabio been alive, he would have been attending?
Yes.
So you went in his stead?
I went and usually would be partnered up with one of his team, mostly Carol,
Protat.
Protat.
Okay. Did you also go to at least a couple of events in the Toronto area?
Yes.
Okay. And did the defendant go to all of these tributes or events with you?
No. She went to one in Toronto that I'm aware of.
Okay. That was the Mirror Awards,
The Mirror Awards.
and Fabio received a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Correct.
And you were on stage introducing
Yes.
Monica, who accepted the award on his behalf.
Yes.
When part of your executive team travels, does the company or did the company pay, let's say, for drivers to take executives back and forth to the airport?
Yes.
So when Fabio traveled, there would be a particular limousine company that you yourself or Fabio would utilize to go back and forth to travel?
There were a handful of us that would use a specific service, yes, with a specific driver that we knew very well.
When you said this was an exceptional situation and so the company was going to do exceptional things at your direction, one of those things was also paying for a limousine service for the defendant?
I believe that we paid for certain escorts for her, yes.
Okay. Did that include taking her to the airport when she traveled out of town to go to allegedly a golf course?
I don't know if we paid for that, but I know that I was being dropped off and the driver mentioned to me that he had dropped off Monica at the airport and she was going golfing with friends.
Okay. And was this when you were going to the airport for a particular event?
I was going to an event in Toronto, yes.
For Fabio?
For Fabio. It was our Canadian organization doing their Canadian Trend Vision.
Okay.
So it was a large event, and yes.
One of the exceptional things was that also some type of a tented memorial that was done on May 22nd of 2017 in the parking lot where Wella was located?
Yes.
Did you also direct that members of the company bring food to the house, the Sementilli home, to feed the defendant and her daughters?
Let me see Counsel Sedwell.
One of the things that you approved was that paying Fabio's salary for 6 months through June?
Yes, I'm aware that Henry had put together a program to continue his salary for 6 months.
Okay. In terms of this event that took place, the memorial event on May 22nd, was that an event that was sizable in nature, was small? How would you characterize it?
It was large. It was 200 plus people, basically mostly stylists and large salon owners in the area, and some of which flew in. I believe his family flew in as well, if I'm not mistaken. But
From
yes,
Canada.
it was a large event.
That was something that the company paid for?
Yes.
Right. Now, were you informed about there being constant complaints and pressure applied to your HR director and his team?
Objection, argumentative, calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
I was aware that she had made repeated calls to several people in the HR organization.
Including Henry Meyer?
Henry Meyer, I think Janet Cover, maybe. But yes, I know that there were repeated messages. They mentioned it to me several times, or several attempts to reach them.
And were you also informed that they had provided the defendant with documentation in order to file a claim on behalf of Fabio Sementilli for his life insurance?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Were you told that the defendant was calling constantly regarding
Calls for hearsay, argument.
Let me finish the question.
insurance money?
Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Were you informed that the defendant was calling constantly regarding insurance money?
Objection, reading.
Overruled.
I was informed that there were repeated calls with the topic being the insurance money.
Okay.
After recess for 15 minutes. The admonition applies. See you back here in 15 minutes. Mr. Mauceri, you're still under oath. You may continue.
Thank you. Where's Esther? She's not there. Esther, I have a set of 3 photos. Do you want me to mark them as one again? All right, a set of 3 photographs from May 22nd of 2017. May they be marked, please, as people's 90.
These are photos generally of what?
They are photographs of the May 22nd memorial, and they have the numbers 3, 4, and 5 in the bottom left corner.
So marked.
Thank you. Showing you people's 90 with a 5 in the bottom left corner. Is this something that took place that you know where it's from?
This looks like it's from the memorial.
The Wella Memorial
Yes.
on May 22nd?
Yes.
Showing you exhibit, and do you recognize the individuals that you see here?
Yes. His daughter, Morella, and Monica.
Morella being Fabio's sister that we spoke about today.
Correct.
Showing you people's 90 with a 3 in the bottom corner. Is this part of the memorial that
Yes.
was created by Wella?
We brought that to different events, and the stylist signed it.
Showing you exhibit, again, 90. This one has a 4 in the bottom left corner. Is that what we see here, people signing?
Yes.
Okay. So that was an event that, or an exhibit that traveled with you to some of these tributes you were referring to.
Yes.
All right. And at this particular event, did you call the defendant on stage to make some sort of a presentation?
I did, yes.
And did she speak at that presentation or in front of all the guests that were gathered there?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Well, you were present, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did she sing a song?
I know she sang a song. I thought she spoke as well.
And what was the song?
I did it my way.
Now, you mentioned that you went to Canada for the Muir Awards.
Yes.
Yes? And before you left for Canada, did you ever see the defendant anywhere around town?
So overruled.
I did
Where was that?
at LA Fitness.
Is that a gym that you worked out at
Yes.
in the Woodland Hills or Canoga Park area?
Yes.
And where did you run into the defendant at the LA Fitness gym?
I saw her walk by going towards the racquetball courts. I did not approach her. I didn't want to at the time. I wanted to give her space. I started working out, came around the corner maybe 15, 20 minutes later, and she was with someone that was working out, and she was standing beside him.
Female or a male?
Male.
By the way, when were the Muir Awards in Canada? So that we can have a time frame for when this occurred.
The Muir Awards were early part of June.
So this would have been prior to that early part of June?
Yes.
Okay. So sometime between the May 22nd memorial and
I
first
believe
or second
so,
week
yes.
in June? Okay. And when you said she was with somebody, did you recognize the individual? Did you know him?
I did not know him. No.
Okay. And when you came around the corner, what was the defendant's reaction, if any?
I think she was a bit startled, but she basically said that he was really pressing her to get out and start working out again, and that she decided she'd get out of the house and come into the gym and take him up on his offer to work out.
And did she introduce you at that point to her friend?
She just said him, and he was pumping iron.
Okay. And at that point, did you have a conversation with her about going to Toronto for the Muir Awards?
I asked her if she was going to Toronto for the tribute, and she said yes. And she asked me if my wife was going, and I think I said no.
Okay. And were you going to that event?
Yes.
Like within the next couple of days?
Within the next, yeah.
And did you also introduce her again at the Muir Awards show?
I did.
And did she sing that song again at the award show?
I believe yes. Along with all the other people that came on stage and were holding hands.
Okay. Now, at some point after you returned from the award show in Canada, did you happen to see on the news the arrest of the defendant?
Yes.
And was there also a photograph of another individual on the news?
Yes.
And did you recognize that other individual that was being shown on the news along with the defendant?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked previously as People's 14, photograph of Robert Baker. Is this the individual that you saw the defendant with at the LA Fitness prior to going to the Muir Awards?
Yes.
Same person's photograph that you saw on the news that also showed a photograph of the defendant being arrested for the murder of Fabio Sementilli?
Yes.
At some point after the defendant's arrest, did you receive another set of text messages from Deborah Obad?
I don't recall.
Okay. This is part of Exhibit 89. This is page 6.
Objection, relevance, and written statement has been called.
Yes, if you want to refresh your memory, you may.
Sure. Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
left corner, was this a message that you received from Deborah Obad and your response on June 21st of 2017 after the defendant's arrest?
Yeah.
This is all hearsay. And,
It appears so now. Appears to be hearsay.
Subsequent to the defendant's arrest, were you interviewed by Detective Mitzi Roberts
Yes.
in March of 2021?
I was interviewed, I don't remember the date.
Would it have been sometime in 2021, towards the beginning of the year?
Yes.
All right. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Burke?
thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mauceri.
Good afternoon.
You described earlier 5 or 10 different times over the course of your relationship with Fabio prior to his being killed, where you and your wife would spend time with Fabio and Monica at their home. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And one of those was you spent time with them at Thanksgiving in the fall of 2016. Is that right?
No. 2014.
2014.
Thanksgiving 2014.
2014. Okay. And you did you spend any time at the home with them in 2016?
I don't recall if we did. It would have been myself. I think we might have gone there once or twice after work,
Okay.
probably. Not with, I don't think my wife and myself in 2016, but for sure me and maybe people from work.
And when you would go to their home with people after work, what would happen?
We would gather outside by the pool area. Normally there would be music on, and we would just talk, and he'd barbecue or have cigars.
And would you see Monica when you came over?
She would come in and out. Yeah.
Okay. And I think you've previously told police, the interviews you've had, that as a couple, that Monica appeared to you to be a devoted wife. Is that?
I think especially in 2014, 2015, that's when I saw them together more than anything else. And yes, everything seemed super normal.
Okay. And then you said that there was one instance in 2016 that the prosecutor asked if you found unusual regarding you feeling like Fabio was not as engaged as he normally was.
Both of them were not, yes.
Both of them were not engaged. And when you say not engaged, your observation was they were not participating as much in the activities?
They were not engaging with other members of the leadership team, either together as a couple or individually, the way we did in prior events.
So where you had seen them engaged
Yes,
previously?
yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And other than these 5 or 10 times that you socialized, for want of a better word, with Monica and Fabio, everything else that you saw was work-related with them?
Yes.
These trips that you talked about?
Yeah, mostly yes.
These trendsetter trips. And these trips were, I think you said, recognition and benefits that Fabio would receive as part of his employment with the company, correct?
No, it wasn't necessarily for Fabio. It was more for other people in the organization. Fabio being part of the leadership team, he would go, because he had a large organization, along with myself and others within my lead team as hosts.
Okay. And when you say he would go, was the company hosting as well the family members, Monica?
The spouses were included in the trendsetters, yes.
Okay. And that's part of the benefit from his employment, correct?
Yeah, it was the program that we had, yes, sure.
Understood, okay. And drawing your attention to the day that Fabio was killed. I think you mentioned before that you had gotten a call on the day before, on the 22nd, where Fabio had indicated that he was going to be out at a medical procedure the next day. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And am I also correct, you then received a text message from him the next day telling you he was at that medical procedure?
Well, I object, it's just hearsay, isn't it?
No, it's overruled.
he said, I'm alive, sent me one of these emojis, and he said everything went well or something like that. So yes, he basically suggested that he had the procedure, everything went well, and he was now home.
And when you say suggested, am I correct, you later learned that he wasn't at a medical procedure?
I
object that. We would assume facts, not in evidence, and call for speculation and hearsay.
So stand on all three grounds.
Did you later have an understanding from information you received that Fabio was not at a medical procedure on that Monday?
Same objection.
Sustain.
Mr. Mauceri, when you learned that Fabio had been killed, I think you testified earlier, you grabbed a few people and went over to the house, correct?
yes,
And you had a brief encounter with Monica?
yes,
Okay. And I think you said you hugged her, correct?
I think so, yes,
She looked devastated,
yes,
distraught?
yes.
And how long do you think you were at the house?
15 minutes maybe? Not long, I don't think.
And I'm assuming, tell me if I'm wrong, but at no time did Monica Sementilli ever talk to you or try to talk to you about anything to do with the company or life insurance. Is that correct?
I did not have any direct conversations with Monica regarding life insurance.
And when you describe all these text messages you got from Deborah Obad, am I correct? It was Deborah Obad who initiated text messages with you, not Monica.
Correct.
And at one point, Deborah says the information she's getting is for Monica, but you, as you sit here, have no idea, or at the time had no idea, whether Monica had asked Deborah Obad to do anything, correct?
Absolutely correct.
And in fact, Mr. Mauceri, you at some point were very frustrated because it felt like to you that Deborah Obad was trying to insert herself into the situation. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
And you, again, believe she was being very aggressive trying to get information.
she was insistent, borderline aggressive, yes.
And at no time in these text messages you received, did you ever receive a text message from Monica Sementilli about any life insurance in the text messages?
Correct.
And you then talk about, I think you testified earlier, that you even saw Deborah Obad at the house the next day?
Yes.
Okay. And you had conversations with Deborah Obad?
Yes.
And you made clear to her that a family member needed to speak to someone about these matters?
I made it clear that it would be Henry Meyer or someone from the HR organization, and either directly with Monica and or a family member.
The prosecutor asked you about a series of memorial events for Fabio. And you testified that you saw Monica at those events?
I saw her at a couple of events, yes.
Okay. Were there any events you didn't see Monica that were a tribute?
As I recall, the one in Canada prior to the Mirror Awards.
Do you know when that was?
It would have been the very end of May, I think.
Okay. And that was one put on by the company?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your testimony she wasn't there, or you just didn't see her there?
I don't recall her being there.
Okay, fair enough. And all of these tributes that your company put on, that Wella put on, am I right that Wella offered to pay for those events without any request or demand by Monica Sementilli? Is that right?
The tributes were part of official events. The only tribute that was specific to Fabio was the tented tribute in Woodland Hills. That's the only one that was a official Fabio tributed event. The rest were all official trade or company events where we did a tribute for Fabio within the events.
I see, but the only one that was specifically for Fabio, Monica attended.
Yes.
Okay, and the company paid for it not as a result of Monica asking or demanding that the company pay for anything, correct?
Right, correct.
And Monica, in fact, never asked that the company pay for any of these things that you went through. Am I correct to you?
Yes, correct.
Okay. She didn't ask to have catering paid for by the company?
Again, I don't know the details of how that came about. I know that I authorized our company to support whatever was needed, but I don't know how it came about specifically.
Very good. And you spoke earlier about the company doing things because it was an exceptional situation. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And am I correct also that the decision made by your company to extend Fabio's salary for 6 months was a highly unusual decision for the company to have made?
Yes.
And it wasn't anything that would have been expected or known that the company would do prior to his death. Is that right?
I think that's correct, yes.
Okay. And Monica Sementilli never asked at any time you to consider extending Fabio's salary for 6 months.
I'm not aware of how it came about.
Okay, but she never asked you
Not
that.
me, no.
And you never had, in fact, any conversations with Monica Sementilli about any of Fabio's benefits or life insurance at the company?
Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Anything further by other people?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You are excused. We're going to turn early. I want to make sure you get home. Everything's okay outside. I didn't see anything. Of course, I don't have much of a vision outside my window, but there'll be an adjournment till tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Again, the admonition probably is not to discuss this case either among yourselves or with anyone else. Former express any opinion to the cause is finally submitted to you. I'm told it's going to rain, so be careful.